you've got to take action directly targeted at the negative evidence that's coming up. You can't just bury your head from it. You can't just turn away from it and just blindly be optimistic. And I remember this very distinctly early on. We had a customer that was just constantly complaining in the early days. And I thought, you know what, why just go use something else instead of Keap? Why do you just complain constantly about this? And then I realized, you know what, her feedback is a gift. Mm-hmm. It's telling us the things we need to do to get better.
Hey, what's up? Welcome to the Life Eater Show. I'm your host, Jason Wojo. On the Life Eater Show, we help people make more, work less, and create lives and businesses they love. I am joined by Polish Peter as my co-host. What's up, brother?
So on this podcast, we're going to keep providing you with great content.
Yes,
How you like that intro, Wojo?
Dude, that was clever. Yeah, we're going to keep rocking and rolling. We are talking with Clate Mask, CEO of Keap. Keap, formerly known as Infusionsoft. It is the world's #1 sales and marketing automation platform. They have over 125,000 users worldwide. And we're talking about leadership. We're talking about growing a company. We're talking about what it takes to get out of the weeds and survival mode. I mean, it's an awesome episode, man.
Yeah, and one of the things that, because I think a lot of people listening to this podcast are either in a survival mode and they're wondering, like, how am I going to get out of this? Or if you have people in your life who are like, can you actually do this business and entrepreneurial and those kinds of things? Listen to this episode. If you are in a stage when you are looking at becoming a CEO, chief executive officer, when you have to lead people, listen to this episode. So there is a lot of gold nuggets in here that Clate shared with us. And I'm just excited to have this ability to have the conversation with him and see what we can find.
Oh, yeah, dude, this is awesome. Let's jump right now to our interview with Clate Mask. Clate, what's up, man? Welcome to Life Eater Show.
Great to be here on Life Eater. Thanks so much for having me, Jason.
Man, we are so honored to have you on, man. And, you know, Peter, I had the chance to catch up with Clate recently, and we had a brief discussion about the Icon Award and all the awesome things that are going on at Keap. Clate, for those of you who aren't familiar with Keap, you've described it as the world's #1 sales and marketing automation platform. You guys have over 125,000 users. Is that number accurate, by the way? Or is that?
Yeah, that's right. And it is specifically for entrepreneurs and their teams that are growing their business. You know, that's who we're for. The people who crave automation are the ones who are growing, and life is starting to get a little chaotic, shall we say.
Yeah. Well, and you know, talk to me about I recently spoke with David Gilliland, and he was saying that his brother Brett has been with you since, like he said, you know, since they were like a $6 million company all the way like through. I mean, you guys are. I mean, he mentioned
that's right. Yeah. How do you know David? That's awesome.
Well, I met him through when you guys did the presentation at Icon.
Okay, great.
Well,
by the way, congratulations on winning the Icon Award. It's a huge honor. It's such a cool thing because we've got so many customers that are doing amazing things to grow their business with sales and marketing automation. And your story was fantastic. It obviously resonated with our customer base. You were voted the winner and much deserving. And when you and I got a chance to talk, I love what you do for your business. I think it's amazing. And it obviously hits close to home because for us, we're all about liberating and empowering entrepreneurs with automation and enabling them to find the freedom that is so elusive in business ownership.
Man, well, I really appreciate that. And, you know, it's an incredible honor that fully hasn't even sunk in yet. But I couldn't help but notice, you know, you guys have this goal, and the only way, by the way, let me back up. The only reason I was able to win that award is because of the community that you've created within and surrounding Keap. And so you, as a leader, have obviously had an instrumental role in this. And I'm so curious, like, I've heard some of the stories of when you first started off, but I'm curious, man, because the scale at which you have grown Keap is it's like 1 in a million for a business owner. Like, so you have clearly done things that have just like accelerated your business growth. And of course, along the way, you've helped countless other businesses like do things for their companies as well. Talk to us about those early stages and how you kind of developed to the point you're at now. And I know it's a super vague, general, broad question, but I'm just curious, like, how does somebody get to that kind of level of growth while still having, and I know there were busy seasons, but you've managed to do this.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I think every entrepreneur starts out the business wanting freedom, but most of the time we don't start out with a real clear picture of what we want to grow the business to. And like in our case, it was like we just didn't want to have a job. We wanted to be our own boss. We wanted to be able to grow the business the way we wanted, and it was about freedom and impact. Being able to earn what we wanted to earn and make a difference for our customers. And then what happened was, and your question's a really good one, and I think this is true for most entrepreneurs. We kind of got out of the survival mode. And by the way, it took about 3 hard freaking years to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lot of times people don't realize that it usually takes 2 to 3 years for a business to get out of that survival mode. And that's what it was for us too. And so if you're in that mode right now, take heart. We say all the time, keep going. Our business name is literally about the grit of entrepreneurs, to keep going, keep serving, keep growing, keep at it. That's what successful entrepreneurs do. So if you're in that you're to that point where you're in that stage where it's just survival mode, recognize that that's how it is. That's how it's supposed to be. If it were easier, everybody would go run a business. It's hard in the beginning as you're getting to that point. And then once you get to an established point, it's not that everything suddenly becomes easy. It's not that suddenly it's just, smooth sailing. There are always ups and downs, as every entrepreneur knows. But what happens is you get to a certain point after you get out of survival, and you see another peak, another summit that you want to go climb. And so, Jason, to answer your question directly, what happened for us was we got out of survival mode, and then we ran the business for 2 or 3 years where it was pretty dang nice. We were making money. Our family and friends were no longer afraid for our survival, and they almost overnight transformed from being naysayers and concerned, caretakers of us to suddenly they were proud of us and telling us we're doing great. And so we were having some measure of success, but we started to see what was possible, and we started to recognize that for most entrepreneurs, most business owners, automation hasn't changed the game for them, and they are dealing with trading hours for dollars, trying to somehow make it all work, and it's frustrating. And they work so hard, and that freedom that they were after is just really, really elusive. And so, in a nutshell, Jason, we got out of survival mode and past the stage where we had a nice, comfortable business, and we began to see the impact that we could have on the world and how we could change the world for not just hundreds of customers or thousands of customers, but hundreds of thousands of customers, maybe even millions of customers. And that just lit us up. We knew what it was like to run the business without automation personally, and we were seeing what it was like when our customers were not running the business without automation, and then they started using it. And so we could see that transformation. And then that just gets you excited. Then as entrepreneurs, you have this passion and fire to spread that to as many entrepreneurs as possible. And so that's what happened for us. We caught that vision, and we've certainly had our ups and downs along the ways, all kinds of different things that we've learned. But man, I love what we do. It's so fun, and it's I feel like we're the luckiest people in the world because we get to empower entrepreneurs with automation.
Man, that's awesome. And so what I heard there as well is, though, and correct me if I'm misspeaking here, when you first start off and you're in survival mode, maybe you don't have any clue as to the scope or scalability or anything of you're not even looking there yet. You're like, hey, right. I'm trying to put food on the table here, and that's okay.
Totally. It's, there's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Well, that totally applies to entrepreneurs. When you're in, when you're in, there's some kind of, entrepreneurial hierarchy of needs. When you're just trying to make sure that you don't default on your rent or your mortgage or whatever, then you go to the stage of you're trying to make sure that you make payroll and that you're not, but then you start to get to a point where you're seeing customers have success and have an impact. And just like in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's about fulfillment, at the top. It's the same way with entrepreneurs. It's you go from survival, and then you get to where the business is working fine, and then you get to where you actually have the money and even the time. The money comes next, and then you get to where you have time and money, and then the top of it is being able to make the impact on the world the way that you want. And for us, that's the path we went through. It took us several years to go through that path, but the thing that lights me up every day is about the impact that we can have for entrepreneurs when they put automation in place.
So I got a question for you, Clayton, because what you just said is the survival stage. I think this is where most businesses get eaten, by the way, during that particular stage, right? Now that you went through the entire stage, for you as an entrepreneur, as a leader of the company, what would you say to someone that's going through that stage right now? How you get through it? What would you say to them?
Yeah. The most critical thing actually is the mindset, because most people, you said it exactly right, Peter. Most businesses never get out of that stage. Those first 2 or 3 years, it buries them. And only about 3% of businesses that ever get started make it to 7 figures. So, you stop and think about that. The failure rate of businesses in the first 5 years is roughly 80%. And those that get through that first 5 years, there's a percentage that make it to 7 figures. And so when you think about that, it's very easy for you to feel like, well, the odds are so stacked against me, I can't do this. And heaven knows that every day you're confronted with all sorts of evidence that confirms you can't do this. Right. So the mindset is critical. You've got to have a mentality that you will get through this. So there's a famous paradox that Jim Collins popularized called the Stockdale paradox. And in essence, it is that you have to maintain an undying belief that you will achieve your objective, while at the same time confronting the brutal facts of your current reality. Now that's really interesting, because most of the time we want to either, as entrepreneurs, so let's apply that to entrepreneur. We call it disciplined optimism in our book, Conquer the Chaos, that my co-founder and I wrote. Disciplined optimism is the Stockdale paradox applied to entrepreneurship. And it is that you have to maintain an undying belief that your business will succeed, while at the same time confronting the brutal facts. Now, what are the brutal facts? Customer complaints, bank account at zero or overdrawn, however you want to call it. A spouse or team member that's super frustrated with you, your own energy that's kind of on a lifeline. You have to confront that, and you have to take measures to counteract that, all the while maintaining an undying belief that you will be successful in the business. So my answer in a nutshell, Peter, is you've got to believe, and you've got to take action directly targeted at the negative evidence that's coming up. You can't just bury your head from it. You can't just turn away from it and just blindly be optimistic. But here's the key, and here's the whole thing. It's learning how to look at those things in a different way. And I remember this very distinctly early on. We had a customer that was just constantly complaining in the early days. And I thought, you know what, why just go use something else instead of Keap? Why do you just complain constantly about this? And then I realized, you know what, her feedback is a gift. Mm-hmm. It's telling us the things we need to do to get better. And if it's not her, it's going to be somebody else. And worse, it might be that somebody's experiencing all those things, but they're not saying anything.
Right.
So the fact that she's saying something is actually the fuel that we need to get better as a business. And that's what entrepreneurs sometimes get tripped up on. They either reject that negativity that's coming at them, or they bury their heads and pretend like it's not there, instead of looking at it as a beautiful gift that's served up to them, because it's actually addressing that helps them to achieve the success in the business. And it's true for all of us, no matter what stage we're in.
So Clay, how do you, so if related to the mindset, when you guys came out, was there anybody, did you have a proof of concept? Did you have or someone to look to model to and say, hey, they're marketing automation software and they're successful, so we can be successful? Or were you guys complete pioneers here? Because what I'm getting at is like, what if somebody's like, gosh, I don't know if this is going to work and I don't have any proof of concept. There's no one I can look to. And now of course, most businesses do have some competition out there and there's someone else doing it successfully, so you can look to them. But I'm thinking like you as a pioneer, it doesn't sound like maybe you had nobody that was doing this and you had to really you had no proof of success and you just still did it.
Yeah. We were the first that were doing marketing automation for small businesses, but we were doing, but at the time, nobody knew what marketing automation was. So it wasn't like we could go and say, hey, come do marketing automation. You're exactly right. People would say, well, I don't even know what that is. So what you do is you look at close cousins to what you do and you model after that success. So, there was Salesforce.com with CRM software and a company called Right Now Technologies and NetSuite that were all doing CRM software. NetSuite kind of moved into financials. Right Now got acquired. Salesforce has become the behemoth in CRM software. And now they do marketing automation and, all the other stuff. But what do you do when you're creating something new? Well, one, you look at models that you can follow. For us, Salesforce was a great one. But the other thing that you do is you listen to your customers. And when your customers are using your product or your service and they're getting benefits from it, that's what ultimately fuels you. Now, when they're not getting benefits and you want to quit because it's not going the way you want, that's where you have to dig in and do the hard work to say, why aren't they getting the benefit? Why is this customer complaining? Why are they upset? And unfortunately, what our human nature is we want to go look for someone who is getting the benefit and then take solace in that and start to feel like, hey, there's a business here. Like, hey, this business is going to work. When it's actually the opposite, go to the people who are struggling in the early stages, find out why they're struggling, fix those things, start turning around those customers, and then emphasize the customers who are having success. But that's, to me, the customer success stories they're the fuel that keep you going when you're feeling downtrodden. And the customer complaints and feedback, that's the fuel that gets you to go attack the issues and create more customer success stories.
Man, that is such an upside down way of thinking it for most people. Like, cause most people, you hear a complaint and it's just, you're like, oh, I got to deal with this. But you're saying like, that's where the gold is. That's the nugget.
It totally is. And you can monitor yourself. Like this is why I say it's disciplined optimism. You are disciplined in looking at the challenge, and the way you monitor it is just like you said, Jason, when the complaint comes, or fill in whatever that negative feedback is, quote unquote, that as human beings we would prefer not to have to deal with, right? This is why most people don't start a business, because it's just full of a bunch of negative crap, especially in the early days. And you take it personally and you get all frustrated, and it's like, no, we can't do that as entrepreneurs. We have to notice when that comes. Am I thinking of this as, oh, okay, great, we're going to go work on this? Or am I like, turn my head? And let's be honest, we all have days when we turn our head. We all have moments when we turn our head, but it's having the gumption and the grit and the tenacity to stare it down and go work on it and make it better. That's what great entrepreneurs do, is they keep going, they keep serving, they keep growing.
I think that applies, Bojo, I think that applies both to personal and business. Like you were talking about business side of it, looking for that, negative Nelly, right? Listening to them. And also depends on the personal side too. If somebody keeps having complaints about you, maybe something to look in here to see what do I need to improve, that kind of stuff. So
absolutely. Yep. You got it.
And so I'm rewinding history here. You guys, you get out of the weeds. Things are kind of smooth. You're starting to be inspired by looking at the scope of what's possible versus kind of staying where you are. Talk to me about the challenges that accompany a business, and what are if you had to look back at some of the key moments that influenced the successful trajectory of the company. Do you have like, can you think of a few instances that were really pivotal, and whether it's something you did or someone you hired or a strategic decision in a product line? Like what are some of those things that, like, because you guys have had an uncommon success?
Yes, gosh, so many things. I'll just rattle off a few of them. When we automated the follow-up process for customers, that was huge. I mean, and in a lot of ways, it's still the very heart of what drives value for our customers. And and let me just riff on this for just a second. The as you hear me say all the time, the fortune is in the follow-up. Customers buy on average after they've seen a message 7 times. But entrepreneurs, we're putting out so many fires, wearing so many different hats, that the natural tendency is we don't get the message out repeatedly. We follow up once or twice on average. And so we leave literally 3 times the sales potential on the table because we don't properly follow up. So the fortune's in the follow-up. And that's why when we put the automated follow-up capabilities in place, it was a total game changer for our business and for our customers when they put it in place. So I have to start by saying it's the innovation around automating follow-up. Now that's turned into all kinds of automation, as you know, all kinds of things you can do. But truthfully, when you get right down to it, it's just different ways of automating follow-up, actually. So that would be the product innovation that I would say was critical. And then we've had 100 more different kinds of innovations, little things along the way, maybe 1,000. I don't know, so many different things that you keep doing as you innovate and improve the product. But product, certainly. Partnerships has been critical. I think getting partnerships right and being able to go work with different influencers and trusted advisors to entrepreneurs, getting that right, that was critical early on. I think an orientation around helping customers hit their growth goals as opposed to implementing software. And I've watched us do this over the years, and sometimes we get more, we're just implementing software, and it's like, no. We're helping them achieve their growth goals. That's what they want. That's why they're buying our software. So getting that goal orientation around, getting people really across the company in our Keap family, as we call it, our employees, partners, and customers, they're all helping small businesses grow with automation. I would say when we raised capital, that was a significant thing because it enabled us to think bigger, look at opportunities in different ways. I think that when we made an adjustment to our business model and it didn't go very well, and then we tweaked it back, that was huge. We had to, and in essence, what we did is we found that in our zeal to help entrepreneurs, we started to just bring people on who weren't serious enough and didn't really have the problem that they needed to solve with automation. And if you're a brand new business, you don't really need to get started with Keap. You don't need automation the same way. Unless you already have a vision of it, you've done it before and you know it. Most people that are just getting started in their business, they don't know what they don't know. And when we try to go help them with automation, it backfires on us. It's not good for them. It's not good for us. They blame us. We spend a lot of money acquiring customers. It doesn't work. And so we're just really clear that we're for businesses, serious entrepreneurs that are serious about automation. And if you're not yet to that point, then you can do things manually and you're okay with spreadsheets and, trying to keep stuff straight on your own. You don't have enough raw material to really automate, then you don't need Keap. But when you get to the point that you're starting to go a little nuts and things are feeling disorganized and you're not, things are slipping through the cracks, you're not following up with leads and customers the way you want to, that's when our product becomes a game changer and literally a life changer. It's part of why I love Life in Air, because it changes your life when you put automation in place. It enables you to achieve things by not just saving time, but saving your peace of mind, the whole reason you got into business in the first place.
Man, I can't say enough about that and what it's done for our organization, for me personally, and everyone in the organization has been affected by it. So I'm extremely grateful that you guys can continue to plow through those tough years to get to where you're at. You said something a moment ago that struck me that I want to unpack just a little bit. Is you mentioned when you take a misstep, you mentioned the software kind of potential client or prospect that, hey, we kind of got a little overzealous. Talk to me a little bit about how you know, or how somebody knows when they have a misstep. How do they know it's a misstep? How much time do you give it to work? Because someone could be like, hey, whether it's a software development or a new hire, how do you know when it's time to kind of cut those losses and it's not going to work and to go to shift? And that seems like it's a skill that I think every entrepreneur needs at every stage of business development, where like you're going to try different things. How do you know if you should stick with it or abandon ship? I know this is probably a broad question.
It's a really great question, and I wish I could give a specific answer on how you do it. I will say specifically with an employee, if that person's keeping you up at night, and if you would not hire them back in a heartbeat right away, if for some reason they didn't work with you, then you probably should be moving on. But let's talk about the more general answer to your question, because whatever the misstep is, like, we make mistakes all the time in entrepreneurship. That's just part of it. A lot of times people have a feel and a sense, but then as the business gets to a certain size, you can't do it that way anymore. And so, there's sort of an entrepreneurial gut instinct that you have, but that doesn't work beyond once you start adding employees and the business starts to grow. And so what do you do? Here's the answer. How do you know? Well, you know by putting a system in place that helps you know. And here's what that system is. Simple as this. You put a planning rhythm in place in your business that has annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly, and daily pieces to it. And there's certain things you do for each of those. But throughout all of it, you have your goals that you're driving to, and you are evaluating, you're slowing down and evaluating your progress to those goals. And when entrepreneurs get a little bit out ahead of their skis, they get over their skis because they're going too long without having evaluation. And so when you put a planning rhythm in place of annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily, you don't get out over your skis for an extended period of time, because you have an evaluation method to take stock of how it's going. You're keeping your eyes on the goals that you've set. And so what I'm describing is it's the essence of a strategy and operating planning process. And every business struggles with this, to get the strategy blended with the tactical day-to-day operations. But when you put this planning rhythm in place, it helps you blend the long-term vision and strategy with the day-to-day execution. And there's a discipline of doing this. And literally, if you will put time on the calendar for daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual, where you're tying into your goals and you're evaluating that with your inner circle of team members. I don't even care what activities you do in that planning or I have some recommendations, which, by the way, David Gilliland's team, that's what they do. Brett and David, they teach this stuff. But if you put the rhythm in place, then you avoid the prolonged missteps. Are you going to make some missteps? Absolutely, but you catch them quicker. And through your evaluation process, you can determine, hey, do we need to give this one a little bit more time before we call it? Or, do we need to move on? And what are the criteria that we're using for that? All of those decisions and discussions that you have, they'll happen if you put a planning rhythm in place. But what happens is people don't put a planning rhythm in place. You're wearing 20 different hats. The business is going fast. Things are moving quickly, and you don't stop and realize, oh wait, we got to take some time and methodically pick apart this issue and determine whether or not we need to go in a different direction. So I don't have a specific answer to how do you know when you made a misstep, but I do have a general one. You figure out the missteps by having a planning rhythm in place.
Right. I love that. And you're using tangible metrics that you are objectively evaluating to determine, like, hey, this is getting closer to where we want to go, or it's further away, so that makes a lot of sense. And one thing that I think is important for business owners that, the automation that you guys provide has done for me especially is it takes me out of those 20 different roles, and allows me to kind of focus on those things so that I have a more objective, kind of higher level view.
Exactly.
And that's pivotal. How has your leadership changed, and your not only your style, but what you've been responsible for as the company's grown? Because I can imagine, like, when I think your stories when it was just a handful of you guys to now, and I don't even know how many employees you have to date, but what's that been like for you, and how did you navigate that? How is leadership different at this level?
Yeah. You lead hundreds of employees differently than you lead a team of 5, that's getting this business going, differently than you lead a team of 25 with, 2 or 3 key leaders that report to you. The journey from entrepreneur to CEO, people will say, I'm a CEO and I've, and how many people in the company? It's just me. And I don't have any problem with that. Like some people get all like, bugged about that. I don't have any problem with that. But let's be clear that there's the CEO, which means the leader of a company, and there's the CEO that is the chief executive officer who leads a team of executives. Being a CEO that leads a team of executives is very different than being a CEO of the company that you started. Even if you started it and it's got 1 person or 5 people or 10 people or 20 people. Once you get to where you're hiring executives who lead a function of the business and you are leading those executives, your role is very different. And so, it's a gradual transition because it obviously doesn't happen overnight, but my leadership style has changed where, I think my passion and energy and intensity would get the things done when we're smaller. And as you get bigger, that passion and energy and intensity has to get channeled in different ways. And through your people, where you're building and trusting and inspiring your people and helping them see the vision that you see. So when you're smaller, you're doing a lot of stuff. When you're bigger, you really just have 3 responsibilities. And that is to set the vision, to hire the team that will go achieve that vision, and make sure that the company has the resources to do it. Truthfully, that's my job. And when I'm doing something outside of that, I'm really kind of outside my lane. And sometimes I do that outside my lane intentionally, and I know I'm outside my lane and there's something I'm trying to go dig in on. And other times I kind of get outside my lane because I like swimming in other lanes, and that's not good. So what you want to do as a CEO when the company's bigger is you want to stay focused on those 3 jobs: set the vision, build the team to achieve the vision, and make sure that the company has the resources it needs.
Man, that's huge. I think most people that we deal with are probably the former, where they're running the company. They're not quite at the level of having an executive suite. And so that's a really powerful, delineation between 2 different versions of it. Clate, I know your time's very valuable. I greatly appreciate you being on the show. And if people want to learn more about Keap, just send them over to keap.com. That's where you send it.
Keap.com, right? Keap with an A, Keap. It's keep going, keep serving, keep growing. We honor the grit of entrepreneurs.
Love it. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Great being with you.
Dude, that was awesome, man. What just a cool regular guy who's accomplished extraordinary things. I remember hearing about the early beginnings, the early modest beginnings of back then Infusionsoft, of like them just trying to put food on the table. Like literally that was a challenge for them. They're each taking home, a couple grand a month. To now, 125,000 plus users. It's over $100 million company. I mean, it's just incredible. And I think it's awesome we got him on the show.
Yeah, and I appreciate the fact that was brought up on this particular episode, because what I think happens for a lot of entrepreneurs is we feel like, okay, I am going through this stage of survival, but nobody else is, because the way that people put it out there, these entrepreneurs, there's, they're, Lambos and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, so like what's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong?
Right, exactly. So to see a company that's so successful right now be able to kind of say, this is where we're at one point, just keep going, right? Keep going. and you're going to get to where you want to know. If you have a clear vision, I love that he put it out again. So to listeners, me and Vojo are not crazy. When we say you need a vision for your business, for your life, it matters.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, it's so, because it's so easy to look at a company like Keap and be like, oh, well, they're, that's just like another world.
Right.
And what you're forgetting is, they've been at this for over a decade. I don't know the exact year they started, but we're looking at a long period of time, maybe 15 years. I mean, somewhere around there. Right. And so they went through the weeds. They had a hard start. They had to kind of pave their own path. And so if you're struggling with that right now as a business owner, you're not alone, and you got to stop looking at the end product and comparing that to you when you're just a year into your business or 2 years. I mean, Clate said, it takes, 2 or 3 years at least usually to get out of that survival mode. And so give yourself a little grace. I'm really glad we talked about missteps, right? Because I think a lot of us tend to think that it's just straight and narrow, a smooth trajectory upward in business. That's just not true. You're going to screw it. Listen, you're going to screw it up. It's okay. You just get back on the path and you start moving in the right direction again. So just realize that's part of the process.
Straight and narrow only happens when you're asleep. Literally for the 8 hours at night when you're sleeping, that's straight and narrow because you go to sleep, wake up. Every other part of your day or business,
dude, I don't even know, man. I don't even think sleeping is straight up and down because I'm waking up all the time, tossing and turning. It's up and down for me constantly.
But you're what, 67 year right now, so you got to get up every couple hours. Right. I mean, that's a completely different discussion, right?
But dude, I love the realness of what it takes to be successful in business. They did the rebrand from Infusionsoft to Keap, and I love how he kind of said, keep going. And there's so many different iterations, keep going, keep hustling, keep believing, keep dreaming, keep serving. And it's just a great mantra for us as business owners and entrepreneurs that these are the kinds of things that you can accomplish. And the other thing that I think I really enjoyed that we discussed this as well, because I think a lot of business owners feel like they're supposed to have the end result in mind before they even begin. But I don't know if that's necessarily true in many cases. Like he said, how they had no clue of the the prospective size of the company when they first started. They were just trying to help somebody and solve a problem. They didn't know the scope they would be at. And now they're like, I want to, hundreds of thousands or even millions worldwide. But if you don't have that vision, that's okay. I don't think you have to have that at the beginning and know exactly what your business is going to look like in 10 years. Cause I don't think that's accurate.
Well, yeah, because you got market forces, you got economic forces, you got all kinds of political forces, all kinds of different stuff that might be happening along the way. But what I feel like what he's saying is you got, you maybe see the low hill, then you see a bigger hill, right? The vision, then you see a mountain, then you get to the top of the mountain, you're going to see a whole bigger mountain, right? That you want to climb. So I think there is the stages that you get unveiled to you to be able to get to the next level. Because think about it this way. When you're in there sitting by yourself at the desk, trying to figure out the vision for your life, right? It's just you a lot of times. When you get to a stage where you're as a multi-million-dollar company, now you have a team of people around you, or maybe you have executive level that's sitting on the table with you. It's a different way that you are going to be planning out this vision for the business. It's not just you. You have other people that are going to be putting their input into that vision. And I think that's why, like what we do here in Life and Error is really impactful because we give people ability to have this group of people, this mastermind, to be able to help you clarify that vision, to get to where you want to go. So you don't have to spend a lot of those times of uncertainty and things like that.
Well, but also people come back to the Get a Life, for instance, over and over again, because this, as you accomplish one level of success, the next level is kind of awaits you to discover it, Right. And so, it's like, I kind of look at in business, and I think Clate didn't say this, but I'll speak for him for a moment. They identified a problem and they saw a solution and they wanted to help people solve that problem. And that has carried them through those very humble beginnings to where they are now. It's like that central focus. And he mentioned the one time they made a misstep and tried to get a little bit, they started to think this was for everybody, which, by the way, we've had the same problem with Life and Air. We think that, Life and Air is for everybody. It really, that can help everybody. And I believe that. But at the same time, there are people that specifically will benefit most from Life and Air.
Right.
Usually for us, and this has been a painful discovery for us because, our heart is torn about serving and helping everybody. But for us, it's usually somebody who kind of probably does want to go into business for themselves or have some sort of income generation source outside of just a W-2.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes they create their vision and they see they can only work, 20 hours a week. And so they have to take that into their own hands. But, and so that's, I think, if you're a business owner, realize there's that core group of people who you can serve and help and who are going to be your greatest customers. Dude, the other thing that I thought was awesome that he said is like, when negative feedback comes in, dude, oh my gosh.
That's what I was just going to,
I stole that one from you, bro.
Yeah, we tend to look at it as like, okay, negative Nelly and all that kind of stuff.
Like, somebody's unhappy,
right?
and you take it personally and you get offended, or you're, someone's just being, it's gold, man. Like that. I love how he said that. That flipped it upside down. And that's our best sources of like information.
Sometimes that can literally take the company to the next level.
Yeah. I mean, I complain about you all the time, but that's different.
Well, I mean, at some point, maybe you start listening to me about that. Right. So, by the way, one thing I forgot, I wish I could have been able to say this on the podcast, but we kind of ran out of time. I was going to thank Clate for providing this automation because we finally got you kind of out of this way and maybe help you tremendous a little bit.
That's where I love what those guys do because, Life and Air, we've talked about this briefly on other episodes as well, is like the automation piece of business is so powerful. And yeah, I know automation can't do everything, but it can do a lot. Mm-hmm. And so it's really allowed me to kind of step out of the day-to-day to a large extent and focus on the higher level activities and the thinking and making sure that things are running smoothly and, just kind of leading more and things like that. And so like, I'm a huge fan and, we talk about business, we talk about this, that we teach it at our business builder workshop and things like that. And so, we've talked about before, I got a book coming out on this sometime next year. And, yeah, man, it's just awesome stuff. And I got to tell you, I was waiting for you to chime in when he was talking about me winning the award. I was waiting for you to say something like, well, he was probably the only one that applied for it or some smart comment.
Well, I wanted to give you this kind of like, this one time, give you this ability
one time
to just actually shine. Right. One time only, right?
My one time, 15 minutes. Yeah. That's right.
So for those of you listening, the reason why the Life on Air is so great, the company runs so well, is not because of Vojo. Just saying.
Right. Yeah, thanks, Clate. Listen, we hope you enjoyed the episode. Listen, man, dude, I know I say this every time, but these things are like, you're getting like an MBA in life and in business. Like, it's just like so much great stuff that we get to talk to these incredible business leaders and these incredible thought leaders who are just giving us gold here. And so, I mean, I truly in my heart believe you can cut years off your learning curve, not only in business, but in life. We cover so many great life things as well by tuning in and taking action. It's all about taking action. It really is where the rubber hits the road and where you're going to see the results you want. And so, so thank you for listening. And we hope you got something huge out of it. You want to be part of the conversation, come on over to our private Facebook group. Also we would love for you to leave us a review or rating. If you haven't given us 5 stars yet, action. This is how we reach more people.
And I would say, just keep on going. Don't give up. Keep on going.
That's right. Keep on going. Keep serving. Keep rocking. We'll see you next week, everyone. Take care.